Okay, so now the next part, the last part, the second part of this is that we are now going to finish our drawing. We're going to put it on a border. So we're going to pull that in. That's going to be like traditional. And we need to do that first because just like with dimensioning, we always want to pull our border in before dimensioning so that we can determine what is the scale of the border so we can set the scale for the text, okay, for the dimensioning and any other notes that we're going to have. So the border has to come next. So I'm going to go back to AutoCAD. And this is going to be just like we've done before. We're going to put on our border layer. We're going to go to Insert, Blocks from Library, and we're going to navigate to where, and then Blocks from Library down here. Then we're going to navigate to where our borders are. Mine are over here, WCTC drawing borders. I'm going to bring in an A border. That's what I have here. And then it's going to populate in our insert dialog box. Now, this one is going to be a 1.5 scale. Okay, so I'm going to click on it. I'm going to bring it in. I have to redefine mine just because this is like multiple times I brought it in during my session, so that's okay. And you'll notice that it's just going to fit around there, but we have to add balloons and we have to add a bill of material. So this isn't big enough. So instead of going to a B-size border, we're going to work with the A, but we're going to go up to 1.5 scale. Okay. So it's asking me in my dialog, in my command line, and I'm just kind of making it smaller and putting this down. It wants me to give an insertion point. So I'm in the lower left-hand corner of my border. I'm going to left click right about there. And now it wants to know the scale factor, and I'm going to put 1.5. Okay. So my geometry always comes in at 1, always. But then, and I draw to 1-to-1 scale, but my border, I'm fitting around it. So I'm making it 1.5 times larger. So my material, this is an assembly. Remember, this is going to fill in the title block. So this all has to be all caps. So this is going to be N/A for non-applicable material. The scale is going to be 1:1.5. The date, today's date, 10/1/2025. Drawing number, I know we don't have a file number, a drawing number, just put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is totally fine. And then we're going to call this shaft support sub-assembly. And I just use ASSY. Sub-assembly just means it's a small assembly we're putting together and it's going to be part of something larger, okay? And then drawn by, you want to put your initials, okay? And we're going to say, okay. And so really what I just filled in was it filled in the dialog box in the title block for me automatically. And then now this is around. Now, if you have to move your border, that's totally fine. Remember, this is a block, so I can go back to the home menu and you can always move, select that border, and then you can kind of, position it around here. I'm going to go maybe something like right about there-ish. Okay, because I've got to add a bill of material down here. Okay, so now I have this around and I know my scale is 1.5. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to put our balloons on, okay? You'll notice that our balloons are circles with the numbers inside, and then I say terminate to a dot. You could do an arrowhead. If you like arrowheads, you can do arrowheads, or you can do dots. I kind of like dots for the parts. I don't know. So kind of a personal preference. The standard doesn't dictate. So what we're going to do is we'll go back over. I'm going to close my insert dialog box. I don't need that anymore. I'm going to change to, it can either be notes or dimension layer. Either one is fine, okay? And then it'll come in and then that magenta color. Technically, it's notes. It's not dimensions, so we'll put it on the notes layer. And now what we're going to do is you're going to see in our annotate block box here, it looks like what is a balloon here. Don't use that. We need to set this up. We need to go to Annotate tab. We're going to go where we see the multi-leaders. And then underneath here, it says leaders. And over to the right, there's this downward arrow. That's going to open up the dialog box or the manager for that. So I'm going to click on that little arrow. Now, this would be putting in like just a regular note. And we've done this before, okay? But we need to change this to a balloon. So we're going to start with creating a new style here using that standard. So we are going to click on new and we're going to make it from that standard and we're going to call it balloons. Are there 2 L's in balloons? Is there one? Is it 2? Okay. don't know why. Sometimes when you spell something, you know how to spell and it doesn't look right. All right, now our dialog box is going to come up, but we're going to start with the leader format tab, which is on the left-hand side. The type we're going to keep straight, right? Yeah, straight. And then we're going to change by block to by layer, all three of these. Okay. And then it's going to ask us about our arrowhead. Okay. Now we could leave it. I'm telling you, you can leave it as an arrowhead. If you're like, I really like arrowheads. I'm going to leave it as an arrowhead. That's totally fine. I kind of like the dots, the filled in dot. Okay. So I'm going to put the filled in dot, but that's kind of big at the bottom. So the size of it is going to be a 1/16 of an inch or 0.0625. And if you hit enter, it makes it smaller, just a little bit nicer. Okay. Then we're going to go to the leader structure. Okay. Leader structure. And we are going to go down to landing settings, okay? And we're going to click off, turn off, automatically include a landing. We don't want a landing. We want our balloons to just go right into the balloon. We don't want that little horizontal line. That's what the landing is, okay? And then you're going to notice down here the scale. This is like the fit on dimensions, and we're going to specify the size at 1.5. It's always the size that you brought your border in at, okay? And then the last tab, this is where we're going to, up on the top here, it says M text. We're going to change this to block. Okay, arrow down, we want M text to block. And then the source block is just going to be a circle. And then lastly, if you follow that leader line up to the circle, do you see how it's on the side of it? We want that to go through the center, okay? So I don't know why it's called this, because to me it makes sense to what it's doing, but we have to switch it to insert point. And now do you see how it straightens out that balloon along that line? Okay, so if we would take this line and extend it, it would go through the center of the balloon. And then we want to change the color to by layer. And then our scale here is 1.5. Okay. All right. And then now we can say, okay. All right. And then we're going to set that as current. All right. And we're going to close. All right, so now if we look up on top here, I'm going to move this down. If we look up on top here, this is where, kind of like our dimensions, we can see that if I arrow down where balloons is, it's selected right now. But if I want to go back to a regular note, like a leader, then I can just select this to standard. Okay, does that make sense? So I want to be on balloons right now. Okay, and now I'm going to put my balloons on. So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit, and we're going to, now the numbers don't, the order doesn't necessarily make a big deal, but I'm going to tell you how people I'm not going to say normally do it, but the good practice is we want to put our balloons on in the order that we would expect somebody to assemble this. Okay. So kind of like how we put it together. The first thing we did is we got out our base plate, right? Then we put on top our bearing, and then the collar, and then we added the hardware. So you'll notice our number 1 is that base plate, 2 is the bearing, 3 is the collar, and 4 is the cap screws. Now, does this perfectly, order all the time? Not necessarily, but something we do is most often you start with kind of like the most important and kind of you try to build up. It's not going to always be perfect order, but then we try to, at the very end, cluster your hardware together, because then when somebody's looking at a bill of material, it's easier to kind of sift through where certain classes of parts are. Does that make sense? Okay. If it doesn't happen each time, it's okay. But that's typically how you try to think of it. So we're going to put on now the balloons. Okay. These are really easy. We're just going to click on that multi-leader. And then it's going to ask us specify the leader arrowhead location. Now, whether you put it on the edge of the part or internal to the part, either one is okay. I kind of like internal to the part, so I'm going to put this here. That's where my dot is going to start. And then about this far away from the part is where the center of that balloon is going to be. And now it's asking me enter the tag number. So my tag number is just going to be number 1. And now it's going to put it in the center of that balloon. Our next one, number 2, I'm going to put right about here. 2, enter. Number 3, I'm going to stick up on the upper left-hand side. 3. And you want to kind of pull them away, but not too far. And then number 4, I'm going to use this one. Now you could do the one on the right, but then it might get a little close with numbers 1 and 2. So just want to make sure that they're, viewable. Okay, so my balloons are in place. Might as well save. Okay. Now I need to make my bill of material. Okay, my bill of material. As we look on that annotate ribbon, you're going to notice that right here is a tables area, and that's what we're going to use. So we're going to click on table, and this dialog box is going to open up. Okay, and we're going to leave the table style as standard. Okay, and then we're going to start from an empty table because we'll fill it in on our drawing. You can import Excel files, okay? And especially when you have lots of parts and maybe it's connected to another, data source or a system, you can do that. But for our purpose, we're going to do it manually. Then you're going to leave this as specify insertion point. So we're going to specify that on screen when we pull it in. And then this is where we're going to specify our columns and rows. So we need 3 columns, one for item, description, and quantity. Okay, so 3 is going to be our columns. I used a number of 1.75. Okay, I think 2.5 is the default. You can leave it. It's just going to be wider, and then we're going to change the width of the columns anyway. And then number of data rows. Okay, and I had to experiment with this a little bit. So before we put the data rows in, right down here, you're going to notice that it says, what is your first row cell? The first row cell is at the top here, as you look at this preview. We are going to not have a title, okay? We are just going to have that as data, because what we're going to do, if I go look back at my, my guide here, we're going to start our bill of material with the headings down at the bottom. And the reason we do this is this offers us the opportunity that we're going to go up from the bottom so that if I add a part to this assembly, I just have to add it to the top. I don't have to reorder everything and try to move the bill of material around. That's always kind of been by design. Back in the day when things were manual, as you can imagine, you wouldn't want to erase a whole bill of material, so you just kept adding to the top. Okay, so that's how it became like the normal practice. So we're going to have our headings, if you would, at the bottom, item, description, and quantity, and then we're going to start our item number from the bottom going up. So when we go back and we look at that dialog box, these 2 rows, they're calling header and title. So the first row, the top row is going to be data. The second row is going to be data. We're going to call all the rows data, okay? But they're asking, what are the data rows? But the only data rows are really the ones that they're referring to are after the heading and the title. So if we look at how many rows we need 1 and then 4 data, if you would. So these are kind of our headers and 4 data. But because we're ordering it differently, they're considering this the header, and then this is the title, the header, and then this is data. So we only need actually 3 data because we're going to get a line for header and title. Okay, I know it seems kind of weird, but if you play around with it, which I have, so we're only gonna do 3 layers, but we're 3 data rows, but we're gonna get a total of 5 because we're gonna get 1 for the title and 1 for the headers. Chris, you had a question?
Yeah, is the bill of materials always in the lower right, or would there be situations where you would put it like in the upper left and then you wouldn't scroll down like it?
Never. No, I shouldn't say never. There might be companies that use that, but I mean, traditionally that's how it's always been. So the spot that most often is looked to is the lower right-hand corner, right above the title block is where you're going to start your bill of material. Can it be done other places? Yes. But do people? Probably. But I mean, this is kind of like the best practice or the way that you would normally, it's kind of like the base, right? If there is a good reason to put it up in the upper right, that's what Chris was asking. I don't think there's any police that are going to come out and be like, I'm so sorry, or there's nobody's like going to assemble this that's going to say, I'm so sorry, I can't assemble this because that needs to be done in the lower right-hand corner. And sometimes maybe to your point, maybe it fits better up there. I don't know, maybe there's more room up there. So I'm not going to say never, but this is where we normally target. This is where we start. And if we have to adjust a little bit, we can, as long as we're not going crazy, making it really pretty or anything. All right, now it's on my cursor and I'm just gonna left click because I'm gonna move things around. I'm not too worried about placing it just yet. Now what we end up getting here is a table, okay? I'm gonna start at the bottom left-hand corner and I'm just gonna double click in there and you're gonna notice it goes into a text editing mode, okay? Now, any text is gonna automatically be centered, but any numbers are gonna justify to the right. So we're gonna put the item in this one, the description and the quantity in each one of the columns. So I'm gonna do item, remember all caps, and then I'm gonna arrow over to the middle, description, and I just use my right arrow for this. Description, right arrow, and then QTY for quantity, okay? So those three are in there. Now, this is not a sophisticated table, so we got to kind of play with it a little bit. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go directly above. I'm going to select this cell and I'm going to double click on it to get in that text editing mode. But before I put my number in, I'm going to go up on my ribbon under justify. We're going to go middle center. Okay, middle center. And then I'm going to put number 1. Okay, and then I'm going to arrow up. I'm going to do justify middle center. Okay, and I'm going to do 2. Now, if I don't do the justify while I'm in here, then it's going to go all the way over to the right-hand side, and we do need it middle justified. So 3, and then arrow up, or you could select the cell and then middle justify and 4. Okay, and then enter. So now they're all centered. Then we're going to go to the description. I'm going to double click here. Now this is text. I don't have to worry about middle justifying, but the first one is going to be base plate. Okay, I'm going to arrow up. The next one is going to be bearing, arrow up. And the next one is going to be collar, arrow up. And then my next one is going to be 0.375-24 space UNF. So this is a 3/8, 24 threads per inch, and it's a fine class. It's considered the fine thread, not the coarse thread. So you have to put UNF, okay? And then we're going to put cap screw, okay? And I'm going to hit enter. Now, what it automatically does for us is it fits in that row, okay? Now, in my guide, and these are the things, this is something I would never mark off for, okay? In my guide, when I did it, I made this wider. So if you want to make all the rows the same width, you would have to make those columns wider to accommodate that. So I'll show you how to do that. So I'm gonna left click, and then you're gonna notice that we have grips. These are the grips just like in AutoCAD when I grab onto a line, okay? And I'm gonna activate the one on the right, for instance, and I'm just gonna click on it and it goes red, okay? Now what you're gonna notice is if I do a shift right mouse button, I'm gonna use my object snaps. I'm gonna do nearest, and I'm gonna make sure that I have ortho on because I only wanna go horizontal, and I'm just gonna I'm going to move over to the left and I'm going to left click when I think it's wide enough. And now notice that it made it wider. And if I left click off of it, unfortunately it stays wider. Oops. Okay. But I believe if I right click on this top one and I do that same thing, shift nearest, okay, because it's looking for something, and I just go down a little bit. Oh, of course. AutoCAD, and again, I'm going to just warn you, this is not like working with Excel or something that's easy. You got to kind of play with it. Come on, come down. There we go. Yeah. So you'd have to kind of move it manually. If you do the width wider at the start, then it'll stay on one line. Okay. Not a big deal though. All right. So I've got each one of those specified, and then I'm going to double click in my quantity, and I'm going to not justify this one. I'm going to do 1. And I'm going to move up, and notice it goes all the way over to the right. Okay. So all I got to do is I just got to go back down into that cell, and then I'm just going to click on middle center. Okay. And then go up to the next one. And then I need 1 for this one. This is quantity. I'm going to do my justify middle center and then go up. Number 1, quantity, middle justify, and go up one more time. And don't forget our cap screws, there's 2, and then middle justify, middle center, and then enter. And now here is my chart. Now I also, and this is again, a total, I would never take points off for this. I made my item column narrower and my quantity column narrower. We would do that very same thing. Not important at all, but I'll just show you again how you can do that. I'm going to double click on one of the cells. Actually, not double click, single click. Activate the grips, shift right mouse button nearest, have your ortho on and go maybe about there-ish. Okay. And that narrows that one out. Same thing over here. I'm going to right click, shift nearest, and then maybe right about here. There we go. So kind of play with it. It's a little bit cumbersome, but it works. When I was working with AutoCAD out in industry years ago, we had to draw each one of the boxes and populate. So it is kind of nice having a table to work with. Now, lastly, we want to make sure that we anchor it down in that lower right-hand corner just above the title block. So we are going to use the move command for that. So I'm going to go back to my home ribbon, go to the move, and I'm going to window around, okay? Hit enter, and then I'm just going to grab that lower right-hand corner, turn my ortho off, and then I'm going to click on, of course, it didn't grab where I wanted it to, so I'm going to move again, and I'm just going to go from that corner to that corner. There we go. Okay, and then now it's anchored in that corner. Now, if I look, I think I'm good. Zoom extends. I have my bill of material. I have all of my balloons. I have everything in the title block identified. My views look great. And I think I've got everything taken care of. So, so you would want to save this one last time. And then you want to create a PDF. So you would do that file, plot, and this is going to be the printer is going to change to the AutoCAD PDF. You're going to go around with a window around the outside, apply to layout, do a quick preview, just make sure it's all on there before you X out and say, okay. And then you're going to navigate to wherever you plan or you've been saving things so that you can upload it. It would be the PDF, this PDF to the Dropbox for this assembly or for this assignment. So it's in there. Save. Okay. All right. Finally. Okay. Are there any questions? Okay. So for the practice problems here, get rid of this one too. For the practice problems here, if we go back to the assignment, which is the Module 7 practice problems because we kind of did everything together. So it's the practice problems 2. You will upload the PDF of that full assembly that we just created here to this Dropbox to this assignment for 20 points. Okay. And then it's considered practice problems. Any questions at all? It's kind of fun, wasn't it? Okay. All right. I'm going to stop our recording.